Welcome to my countdown of the most haunted hospitals in the United States. Grab your ghost hunting gear because we're diving into some seriously crazy locations. Get ready because we're about to take a wild ride through medical mayhem. From coast to coast, these hospitals have stories that will make you sleep with the lights on. So are you ready to face the fear and explore the history of these haunted hospitals? Welcome to Screamville. First up, we're checking into Waverly Hills Sanatorium, a name that sends chills down the spines of even the most hardened skeptics. Built in 1910, this Kentucky landmark was once a beacon of hope for tuberculosis patients. But like a hospital gown in a hurricane, things took a turn. With a mortality rate that would make even the Grim Reaper nervous, Waverly Hills earned a reputation as a place where people went to, well, not get better. We're talking about thousands of deaths, folks. Speaking of investigations, let's talk about room 502, shall we? Legend has it that a pregnant nurse, distraught over a tuberculosis diagnosis, took her own life in this very room. Ghostly nurses and patients are frequent flyers in room 502, according to reports. Waverly Hills also boasts a charming little feature called the Death Tunnel, a 500-foot-long underground passage used to transport the bodies of deceased patients. Can you imagine the residual energy in that tunnel? Next up, we're heading to the Mountain State, to the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. Built in the mid-1800s, it was meant to be a sanctuary, but overcrowding and questionable treatments led to suffering. It's considered one of the most haunted places in America. Shadow figures lurk in the hallways and disembodied voices whisper secrets from the past. Visitors have reported seeing apparitions of former patients, hearing their cries for help, echoing through the empty wards and feeling cold spots that would make a polar bear shiver. Some even claim to have been touched, scratched, or even pushed by unseen forces. And let's not forget about the children. Oh yeah, did I mention Trans-Allegheny House children too? Because it did, and let me tell you, there's nothing creepier than the sound of children's laughter echoing through an abandoned asylum. Except maybe the sound of children's crying. Some say the spirits here are restless, trapped between this world and the next. Others believe they're simply looking for someone to hear their stories, to acknowledge their pain. Whatever the reason, one thing's for sure, Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum is not for the faint of heart, or the weak of stomach. So, if you're planning a visit, you might want to pack an extra pair of underwear, and maybe a therapist. Next up, we're heading to Toole, Utah. You know, Utah, the state that's basically one giant national park. Except for this one spot. This is Old Toole Hospital, or as the kids call it, Asylum 49. It's like someone took a perfectly nice hospital and said, let's crank the creep factor to 11. This place was a hospital, which already gives it a head start in the creepy department, but now it's a paranormal playground. I'm talking disembodied voices, shadow figures lurking in the corners, the whole shebang. They say the energy here is off the charts, like walking into a cold spot on a hot summer day. Every good haunted hospital needs a poster child, and for Old Toole, it's a little girl who apparently never checked out. People have reported seeing her skipping down the hallways, which, okay, kind of creepy, kind of adorable. I mean, if you're into the whole dead children wandering the halls thing. Some paranormal investigators even claim to have captured her voice on EVP recordings. You know, those creepy recordings where you hear a faint whisper that sounds suspiciously like static? Yeah, those. Either way, it's not exactly what you want to hear when you're alone in a supposedly haunted hospital. From the dusty deserts of Utah, we're taking a hard left turn to Spring City, Pennsylvania. Get ready for Pennhurst State School and Hospital, a place with a history so heavy it could make a ghost rethink its afterlife choices. This place is like the all-star team of haunted locations. We're talking abandoned hospital, check. Former mental institution, check. A history of alleged mistreatment and neglect, check and check. Closed down in '87, Pennhurst has been featured on pretty much every ghost hunting show ever. And for good reason. This place is practically a ghost buffet. You want shadow figures? Got 'em. Disembodied voices? They've got a whole choir. Imagine walking down these hallways, the air thick with the weight of thousands of untold stories. It's enough to make even the biggest skeptic want to sleep with the lights on. People have reported everything from full-body apparitions to feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. And let's be real, when a place gives you the feeling that you're standing in the middle of a horror movie, it's probably a good idea to get out of there. But hey, that's just me. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm just the guy with the questionable sanity who's voluntarily stays up late at night researching these places. Now we're switching coasts and heading to sunny Los Angeles. Don't let the palm trees and perfect weather fool you. This city's got a dark side. And nowhere is that clearer than at Linda Vista Community Hospital. Now this isn't your typical abandoned hospital in the middle of nowhere. Linda Vista sits right in the heart of Boyle Heights, a neighborhood with a long and, let's just say, colorful history. This place has seen it all. Births, deaths, miracles, tragedies. You name it, it happened within these walls. So, is it any surprise that some say the spirits of those who passed within its walls never really left? Some people have reported seeing ghostly figures of former patients wandering the halls, their moans echoing through the empty rooms. And let's be real, if you're going to have a ghost encounter, a former hospital is pretty much the most cliché place for it to happen. But hey, clichés are clichés for a reason, right? They're usually at least a little bit true. And in the case of Linda Vista, those whispers and shadows seem to be enough to keep the ghost hunters and thrill seekers coming back for more. Me, I'm just here for the snacks. And maybe a ghost sighting or two, if the paranormal vibes are feeling generous. Alright folks, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into Rolling Hills Asylum in East Bethany, New York. Now this place has a history that's just as grim as its reputation. It started as a poorhouse, which, let's be honest, never screams happy vibes. Then it became an asylum, and you know how those stories usually go. People say the spirits of those who lived and died within these walls never quite checked out. Imagine spending your days pushing a rusty food cart down these hallways only to become a ghost pushing a rusty food cart for eternity. That's the afterlife, baby. They say shadow people like to lurk in the corners here, probably gossiping about the living. And if you're lucky, you might even catch a glimpse of a full-body apparition. Just your average, everyday ghost sighting, no big deal. One of the creepiest things about Rolling Hills is how quiet it is. You'd think with all those spirits roaming around, it'd be one big ghostly party. But no, it's mostly just an unsettling silence, punctuated by the occasional disembodied voice. Imagine walking down this hallway and hearing a whisper coming from the walls themselves. Is it the wind? Is it the building settling? Or is it Earl from accounting still complaining about his paycheck from beyond the grave? Honestly, I wouldn't stick around to find out. This place has nope written all over it in big spooky letters. But hey, if you're brave enough to spend the night, be sure to pack an extra pair of pants. You know, just in case. Get ready to explore Eastern State Hospital in Williamsburg, Virginia. This isn't just any old haunted hospital. Oh no, this place is practically a historical landmark. It's one of the oldest mental institutions in the United States, which means it's had plenty of time to rack up some seriously spooky stories. We're talking centuries of patients, doctors, and staff coming and going, leaving behind their energy, their memories, and maybe even a few stray socks. You know how it is. With a past like that, it's no surprise that Eastern State is practically bursting at the seams with paranormal activity. People have reported seeing ghostly apparitions, hearing blood-curdling screams, and feeling like they're being watched. They say the spirits at Eastern State are particularly chatty. EVP recordings from this place are like a ghostly podcast with voices whispering from beyond the veil. I'm talking whispers, moans, maybe even the occasional spooky Gregorian chant. Imagine sitting in this room all alone and suddenly hearing a chorus of voices echoing through the halls. Would you stay and try to decipher their ghostly messages? Or would you run for the hills, tripping over your own 2 feet in the process? Let's be real, I'd probably trip over a ghost hunter on my way out. But hey, that's the price you pay for investigating the paranormal. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're headed to the Lone Star State, to a little place called Yorktown Memorial Hospital. Now, this place has been closed since the 1980s, which means it's had plenty of time to marinate in its own creepiness. And trust me, this place is marinated. We're talking a deep-fried, extra crispy level of unsettling. People say Yorktown has a dark and oppressive atmosphere like a weighted blanket made of fear. You know the feeling you get when you walk into a room and just know something's not right? Yeah, multiply that by 1,000 and you're starting to get the picture. The most common experience reported at Yorktown is the feeling of being watched. It's like those unseen eyes are following your every move, just waiting for the perfect moment to, do whatever it is ghosts do. Add to that the disembodied voices, the shadow figures lurking in the corners, and the occasional blood-curdling scream echoing through the empty halls, and you've got yourself a recipe for a pants-wetting good time. I'm not saying I wouldn't spend a night in Yorktown, but I'm also not saying I wouldn't bring a whole team of paranormal investigators, a therapist, and maybe a priest, just to be safe. All right, buckle up, ghost enthusiasts and skeptics with questionable life choices. We're headed to Westland, Michigan. This is Eloise Psychiatric Hospital, and let me tell you, this place is massive. We're talking over 70 buildings spread out over 900 acres. That's like at least 3 whole amusement parks dedicated to mental health or lack thereof, depending on how you look at it. And you know what they say about big buildings? Lots of room for spooky shenanigans. Eloise has a history, guys. Opened in 1839, it saw thousands upon thousands of patients pass through its doors. And when I say pass through, I mean some didn't quite make it out in the way you'd hope. Tuberculosis, mental illness, you name it, Eloise saw it all. So, naturally, with that much human experience, some energy's got to stick around, right? Or maybe it's just the wind whistling through the broken windows. Who knows? One of the creepiest things about Eloise is how quiet it is. You'd think a place this big would be buzzing, even if it's just with rats or something. But no, it's this unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional creak or groan of the building settling. Or, and this is where it gets good, the sound of footsteps echoing down empty hallways. Footsteps, my friends, that no living person seems to be making. And then there are the voices, whispers, moans, sometimes full-on screams reported by terrified visitors. Or maybe they were just scared by a raccoon. Hard to say, really. But these voices, they seem to be coming from the walls themselves, as if the building itself is trying to tell us something. Or maybe it's just the plumbing. Look, I'm not saying I believe it, but I'm also not saying I'm willing to spend the night here to find out. Next up on our spooky hospital road trip, St. Albans Sanatorium in Radford, Virginia. Now this place has layers, like a haunted onion, if you will. It started as a boys' school back in the 1890s, which is creepy enough on its own, let's be honest. All those rules and regulations and probably terrible food. I'd be a grumpy ghost too. But hold on to your hats, folks, because it doesn't stop there. Oh no, after a few decades of molding young minds, St. Albans decided to up the ante and become a mental hospital. And not just any mental hospital, but one known for its, shall we say, experimental treatments. So yeah, if these walls could talk, they'd probably be screaming. St. Albans is a hotbed, or should I say, cold spot, for paranormal activity. Visitors and investigators have reported everything from disembodied voices to full-on apparitions. And let's not forget the classic haunted house staple, the unexplained cold spot, that sudden chill that runs down your spine, making you question if you left the stove on or if it's just a vengeful spirit trying to steal your body heat. One of the most well-known stories from St. Albans involves a shadowy figure that's been spotted lurking in the hallways. Some say it's a former patient, driven mad by the treatments he received. Others claim it's a malevolent entity, drawn to the building's dark history. All I know is if I saw a shadowy figure coming towards me in a dark hallway, I'd probably leave a puddle of fear and run the other way. Well, there you have it. Some of the most haunted hospitals in the US, each one more terrifying than the last. We've explored creepy hallways, felt unexplained chills, and maybe even heard a ghostly whisper or two. Or maybe it was just the wind. Look, I'm not here to convince you. Thanks for joining us on this spine-tingling tour of America's most haunted hospitals. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And remember, If you ever find yourself in one of these haunted hospitals, just keep telling yourself it's all in your head. Or is it?